So, next up is this thing. And I think you've probably figured out why.
You grabbed this because of Fallout London.
It is Fallout London, yeah. So, it's even the same one that we filmed with the scope mount on it.
Ah, yeah.
No scope. And as I think I remarked at the time, it's not the right scope mount. Because what they'd done in Fallout London, apart from something really wacky, was essentially mash up the number 4T sniper rifle setup with the mount and the scope onto the number 5 rifle, aka the jungle carbine. And they've done, for me, it was like the quintessential Fallout weapon. Well, maybe not quintessential, because there's a lot in those games that's completely made up. But one that is fairly well rooted in reality. Like they'd modelled this as well as they needed to. Any discrepancies can be put down to alternate timelines.
And you can find them in the Enfield factory as well.
This is the other reason. So multiple layers for this one. The fact that you find it in the factory was just extremely cool. It was a design of that factory, of course, even though they've not really tried to attempt to make the factory look real. Like
yeah,
the factory
it's not in the right place. It's not, to scale, but
yeah.
it being in the world is cool to see.
Yeah.
And you could make up, in-game reasons for why the factory looks different or is in different places anyway.
And then the third strand, obviously, is that they have Falloutified it with some sort of electric ammunition system that really made no sense. But like, it would be weird if it was, well, I guess it wouldn't be weird if it was just a normal cartridge firing rifle. They could have just done that. But I kind of like that. You already had that with the number 4 rifle in that game. So to give it that, they call it the electric boogaloo.
That's it, yeah. I can't remember myself, but the fact that you get options is again something I think we've always appreciated. Yeah. And even if it is, I think Fallout just puts like a PCB on the side of it. Just a piece. It's just electrical gubbins that allows it to shoot electrical ammunition, and it's like, well, it works, right? Maybe in the Fallout timeline in London, and again, I mean, none of this is canon because it's a mod, expertly made mod. Yeah, we should reference that, to be fair. But you can sort of twist your expectations of firearms because it's the Fallout universe. Exactly. It's not shooting microwaves like some other of the weapons, but yeah, why not get a Lee Enfield that can shoot electric? Yep, I mean, they could have gone more to town with it. There were, and they did with some of the other weapons that were full on, like laser or plasma or whatever. Was the Enfield that I put the tape on just to annoy you? Because that's definitely something I did in that episode. There was one gun, it might have been the Enfield. I think it was. I put tape on. I think it was, yeah. Because it was tape, more tape, and then it was like even more tape or an obnoxious amount of tape or something.
Made me think of you that it goes from little tape, bit more tape, all the way to that's enough tape, actually. enough tape. I do like that.
Which feels like I'm being called out by the developers, never mind by you.
I did wonder. But all of the weapons in Fallout London were great, or at least interesting, like the Dardek, which then became the Dalek pistol. Yeah. Which is really cool.
Again, this is one of those where I could have gone with game rather than gun. Yeah. I guess because of the connection to the factory in particular, the sort of clever wordplay, like I guess because this is the sequel to the number 4 rifle, so electric boogaloo, or maybe they were just being silly with it, I don't know. But it's the perfect Fallout gun because it's just the right amount of silly. Yeah. I think.
In an alternate universe as well, I think you would have been in the mod as a character selling firearms or something. But if someone makes Fallout Leads, now we'd be talking. But hey, if anyone out there is making Fallout Leads, I should probably talk to you.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to see how this building makes it in.
If there's anywhere to survive an apocalypse, there's not a lot of food in here, but everything else I think would be set with. I couldn't come here and not talk about your friend of mine, Warhammer 40,000.
Of course.
The firearms in Space Marine 2 really stood out to me, both from being a Warhammer nerd to how detailed they are, to how beautiful a lot of them are. And again, like having worked with you on so many videos, it's deepened my appreciation of some of the details that people add to the weapons, developers add to their firearms, both from a functionality point of view to an aesthetic point of view. And again, I loved Space Marine 2. I loved the way they implemented all the bolt guns, the pistols, the plasma weapons, all of it. All feels so good. And thinking back to when you did things like the Reloaded exhibition and all these beautiful artistic firearms, and sort of how that's how guns are treated in Warhammer 40,000. They become these pieces of art. They become master crafted with their, inlaid with gold and marble and painted beautifully. They've got purity seals on, which then make me think about some of your more recent acquisitions with the armor plates, when they're connected to faith and belief at the same time, and all the way to the historical references in Warhammer 40,000 weapons. Like, you can see the inspiration of real-world firearms that go into, the bolt gun, and just the feel of them, man. Like, it just feels so good. Like walking around with a heavy bolter or plinking away with the stalker bolter. The feeling of them, the effect on target of them. It's the best implementation of a Warhammer bolter we've ever seen in video games, at least. And it was always exciting, like showing you Warhammer stuff, because I start getting excited and like, I get to show Jonathan the hobby that I love, and seeing you be able to get
Toby with the armour as well.
Yeah, I feel like I've cursed so many experts in so many fields of getting into Warhammer now. It's like a monkey's paw of a wish. You get to immerse yourself in this hobby, but it will take over your life, and it's just such a deep rabbit hole to go down. But I loved Space Marine 2. I loved the weapons, and when we were looking at the footage, we were seeing details that hadn't really been shown in a 3D world before. Like we never really got to see how, the receiver would move properly in one of the new variants of bolt rifles. We never really knew what the spinning bolt on top of the bolt rifle would actually look like in action. But now we get to do that, because they're all so lovingly recreated. They're all so well implemented, and I just love to see a bolter thump away. And what's nice is that
thump is the right word.
Yeah. They're well realized enough that people like yourself and the sort of everyman gamer can get an appreciation of them as well. When we started talking about bolt guns, we couldn't get away from the gyrojet comparison. Like, we would always reference that, but now they've become much more their own thing and within their own universe, that we almost don't need to make that comparison, because they are their own entity now. But
yeah, I was never entirely happy with that anyway, just because they've always, I think they've always been depicted as chucking out great big cartridge cases. It always felt more to me like a handheld grenade launcher, but then you definitely have those streaks depicted of a rocket assisted projectile. But I completely agree with it all. They feel real for that universe. They have reality to them. If you try and break them down as real firearms, it becomes problematic. Obviously, capacity notably. Yeah. But there's enough realism there. Things like the feed lips on the magazines, or the detail of the rounds themselves. Actually, they're super detailed, and the cases that come out are. That they're as detailed as they need to be in the game and in the universe. And if they try to make them any more kind of realistic, it wouldn't have worked.
No, it almost takes away from the world of Warhammer. Like, it wouldn't even be.
I was worried about those rails on them, because I thought they were going to make them too coddy.
And I think that's like it's visual detail that you can just be like, oh, it's there because it's visual detail.
It did not bother me playing the game.
Well, that's the main thing. We had a couple of rounds of Space Marine 2, and you were just like, this is cool. I love killing all these bugs.
Yep.
It just feels great. And in any other game, you might have took issue with Latin being inscribed on the inside of the lens of the scope. But in Warhammer, of course you have "Death to me is art" in Latin in the scope.
That was a really cool moment, actually, picking up on that, just from doing the review side of it. But it does show the difference between, like, I guess I got it just from watching the footage, but you get it more when you're playing, and you notice the detail less. I guess that's why what we've done has been quite successful, is that because people say, "Oh, get him playing." Yeah, that's great too, but it's a different mindset.
Yeah, because you notice things that I spent a lot of time like researching and going through my own footage and taking my time to try and see as much of the detail as possible. But you can't do that while you're playing, because you inevitably, especially if the game is a good experience and is an immersive experience, you will inevitably get lost in it.
Yeah.
So
same with movies.
You really sort of need to be isolated from playing the game to some degree to notice all these details.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think I saw the feed lips. No, I definitely saw the feed lips because I got the photo mode, but there were definitely details that I didn't spot until I was then watching the footage back with you. And that, to me, is like a mark of, good implementation of detail. Because, again, we've said this before, it might not be something that the player directly engages with or notices, but even if it's just in their subconscious, it's adding to the overall feel of authenticity.
Yeah.
And we can't really call it realistic because it's in the year 42,000, technically. It's in the far future, in the grimdark far future. It's not trying to be realistic. It's, again, trying to be its own thing.
But it has to be realistic
within that universe,
self.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Space Marine 2 does that.
Faithful, whatever you want to call it.
Amazingly. Like, from the architecture to the weapons, to the chainsaw, to the armor, all of it just works so well. The bolt guns and the firearms are just a portion of that. But I was so glad to see that they showed so many of the different weapons, even the plasma and Volkite weapons, so much love. And yeah, it just feels great. I freaking love Warhammer, man. You've insisted you wanted to show 2 here, just because you're a big old nerd like me.
Yeah, well, I briefly forgot that we have 2 of these things. So
is this because of Hunt Showdown?
It is Hunt Showdown.
Yes.
Yeah, one of a number of games that, to my shame, I still have not played. I'm very sorry, especially because they were so good about the points that I pointed out and made changes following them. Speaking of which, there was a glitch on this.
Oh, here we go.
I've already covered it. But if anyone knows, perhaps the guys themselves, and I should have damn well played it and found out, but
it'd be too scary for you.
Has it been fixed? Let us know. And the glitch was, it was very minor. So on your, we can show it there. You clip that all the way down. You fill it with your 5 rounds, and then you flick it out of the notch. And it applies the spring pressure to push the rounds up. Somehow it was just jumping up to the top again. So they had the correct animation for locking it on, and it was just jumping up. So it was clearly a glitch, not deliberate. So I'm sure they have fixed that. But it was just so incredibly cool to see this thing that I'd only ever seen here.
I was going to say, it's not specifically just the weapon that stood out to you. It's
the Martinis. Maybe, yeah. I think I had a few issues with the representation of the Martini, although it made sense in the setting where it was probably modified. If we cut down from a longer rifle, and it was still a good gun in the game, but it was absolutely the Harston quick loader that had me raving that it was in the game, and the little arm that pops out when you operate it. This one's slightly different, by the way. Larger capacity. I haven't measured how many rounds. And a different tab on it. So there's more research to be done on this thing. And weird, I'm guessing they picked it up from the video that we'd done on our channel about this. I don't think Forgotten Weapons had done one. I don't want to take credit for something that isn't due. But it's always incredibly rewarding to see people engaging with historic firearms, whether it's visitors or game developers who are getting inspired by, and even if it wasn't our collection, it's still the subject. So this absolutely exemplifies that aspect of what we've been doing.
Yeah, and I think the folks behind Hunt Showdown as well really do care about all that detail, all that authenticity, from changing one of the reload animations based on your feedback in one of the videos, to featuring some of the weird, like reloading devices or very niche firearms of that era that, like the chain pistol. I can't recall seeing the chain pistol anywhere else, but they didn't just add that because it's something cool. There was a historical precedent that allowed them to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they care most about. It's like, yeah, we're in this fictional world where it's, you know, horror and zombies and things like that. But what can we get away with using reality while also having their own flavor? Like the C96 reloads is, you know, very stylistic when they knock the stripper clips out when it's used akimbo. And there's the there's a Mosin that's been cut down so you can use it as a mace.
Yes.
It's one of those things that, again, fits their world while also allowing them to feature devices like this to harken back to the reality. It's really interesting, their sort of stance on realism, authenticity. And they do a tremendous job, and it's really great to see like that they care so much about that detail. And obviously the fact that they have changed their weapons based on things that have appeared in the videos that we've done together is obviously extremely cool to see.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, crazy guns like this that, you know, someone somewhere thought was a good idea, and it became apparent quite quickly that it wasn't. The perfect place for them to have a sort of afterlife is in media. And it's you know, then that feeds back into people learning about, you know, why did they try and come up with a magazine for a Martini-Henry? And you get into the trials program and how they ended up with the Lee Metford, which, you know, still around today in various forms. That it's such a great way to engage with the history, but not constrain yourself to just dry historical accuracy for the sake of dry historical accuracy. I love that too, don't get me wrong. But, you know, compared to, say, Battlefield 1, you know, I came to terms with Battlefield 1, including a load of guns that were never actually used. I kind of wish they had overtly made it an alternate reality, because then they could have done even more cool stuff with it. But they kind of had the cake and ate it too with that, in that it's kind of by default an alternate reality, but it isn't meant to be. Yeah. Whereas Hunt Showdown, of course, it's alternate because you've got zombies and stuff. Yeah, and to the players, it might be enough to them that this just allows you to use a Martini-Henry and reload faster, have multiple rounds. That might be enough to them, but for the people that see it, get intrigued and look stuff up about it, I think that again, that's something that's super cool to see when people are able to use the games they play and the media they enjoy as a jumping off point to learn more. And that's really the basis of all the stuff that we've done together over the years. Yeah, well, here you go, guys. Here's another one for you to model. Even more crazy looking, I would say. And I suspect this is the earlier version, but I'm going to go away and look into that. You do love your Martini-Henrys. Who doesn't? Some of my favourite virtual firearms of 2024 have been the ones featured in Helldivers 2. Same. The way they treat their firearms, the variety, the implementation is so good. It fits the universe. There's way more detail than I think even we noticed making those videos. And I know it's resonated with you because you've grabbed this, which we also featured. Yeah, I promise you, we have not cheated this at all. In fact, I wasn't even sure what I was going to have as my top until just now. You've ended up choosing your favourite gun game, effectively, as Helldivers 2, and I've chosen my favourite gun from a game, also from Helldivers 2. How's that for synchronicity? Same brain. Yeah, like, I'll talk more broadly about the guns of the game, because... They are good in general. What this represents as a standout for me. Yeah, and for good reason, but yeah, generally the guns... The detail in those guns far exceeds what you'd expect from a game largely set in first person. Yeah. So, or anything from the first game, let's not forget. Oh yeah, like the first game being like a top-down sort of twin-stick shooter, the jump between those games is incredible. But the way they fit in the universe, from the variants of the sort of Liberator to the sawed-off triple-barrel shotgun, you know, all of these guns are cool within their own right of function and aesthetic. But then you look deeper and you're like, oh, the side-mounted magazines on the sawed-off shotgun are usable. Like when you run out of ammo, they're the last shells you use, which is such a small thing, but it's a thing that so many games have not bothered to implement. They do disappear magically from. They do disappear magically. We'll allow them for that. But yes, so many of their guns are so interesting
from a sort of P90-esque SMG to a different SMG that's got a side-mounted magazine. The differences between the reload animations from if you're running and gunning or using them with both hands, or if you're using a shield, you sort of let it go on an admittedly invisible sling, but you manipulate it all with one hand and it all feels real and authentic. We're going back to that thing of authenticity. They all live in their game world so exceedingly well. And that's just the sort of primary arms. When we got into looking at everything from the artillery to the heavy weapons like this, so this would be referencing the autocannon, or even the recoilless rifle, how all that's implemented and animated, and the team reloads, and the recoilless weapon having like backblast you have to worry about. They've done an exceptional job implementing their weapons. And they've really stood out to me from every element that I can think of. Like I said, from the modeling, the animation, the authenticity, even lore reasons. Like when we looked at one of the episodes, double-barreled shotguns exist in that game, but only you can only find them next to sort of civilian buildings where they're sort of frontier weapons. And that's like, yeah, of course that makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world that they wouldn't be...
Farmers' mums.
Everyone's packing around here. Of course that makes a ton of sense. The special forces of the Helldivers aren't going to be using something like that. They're going to be using the machine guns, their assault rifles, their SMGs.
But it's like the opposite approach to Doom super shotgun. Like somehow this is some elite Space Marines weapon, but it's a double-barrel shotgun. Love it, but that sort of justification in universe is always good fun, I think.
Yeah, and there's a lot of designs that harken back to real-world weapons, like the Tavor, the P90, even some of the pistols, and yet they have their own thing, like pump-action, arc-throwing lightning shotguns that you're sort of charging with the pump. They have the twin magazine shotguns that hark back to the sort of UTS-12 types of shotguns. But even on that gun, you can see, and this isn't a detail that either of us picked up on when we first saw the game. In fact, I don't even know if it was implemented after. But when one magazine is empty, you can see the switch flick to the other magazine.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I didn't notice that. Yeah. But the fact that that's in there, again, something you'd really not notice as an average player, is just amazing to see. But yeah, I could talk for ages about the Helldivers 2 weapons because they really have done an amazing job.
Yeah. They have their own aesthetic as well. You mentioned the real-world inspirations. I mean, there's enough there to go, oh yeah, it's a bit like what we have. They haven't done what they did. It always sticks in my mind for some reason, but Alien Covenant, in contrast to Alien Romulus, where they went back to what an alien gun should be, arguably, they just literally had them with Steyr AUGs in space. I thought, oh, guys, that's just so lazy. And Helldivers could have done that, but obviously being a game, they're less likely to do that. They didn't. And in fact, they're referencing the first game, I think, with the very blocky, the colour palettes, the blocky aesthetic. But like you say, they've made them really detailed and expanded. Like, it's exactly what you want from a sequel. They've gone to 11 on everything. Yeah. Especially in that universe, makes lots of sense to do that.
They even recently added, I say recently, a few months ago, they added the Constitution from the first game, which was like a historical bolt action weapon. And it says on the description, like, this is not, this will offer no advantage fighting aliens, essentially, but it's just a cool bolt action with a bayonet, because in the universe, it's now a historical firearm.
I hadn't realised that aspect. I was aware of the Constitution and it being, it's like a 1903 Springfield, isn't it? It's like one of these, I guess they're kind of giving it the sort of cachet of the M1 Garand, but it's based on the 1903 Springfield. I hadn't realised that was a reference to the first game as well.
Yeah, and reference to Helldivers history.
I haven't played enough of it, clearly.
I've not played it in quite some time, but every time an update drops and new weapons come out, and we just had the Illuminate update where, new enemy to fight, I'm definitely very keen to go back into that. But even when they dropped the Constitution, I think it was on, they just called it Freedom Day, this is the anniversary of Helldivers. There's such, it's almost like that was a throwaway weapon. It's a joke weapon. It's not good in the game. There's no real reason to use it except for legacy reasons. Yeah. But details like that, like if the magazine has a round left into it, in first person, the Helldiver will put their thumb over to prevent that last round coming out and then top it up. Whereas if it's empty,
Okay.
They won't bother with that. It's such small details like that that really speak to me. Yeah. And then you go all the way into things like the autocannon, which I think we can say this weapon here inspired that. And the detail of like team reloads and the toggle lock, like it works so well.
So the team reload, the crew serve thing, is I think my favourite aspect about Helldivers 2 in terms of changing how weapons are represented. I'm sure it's not the first game to do crew served weapons like that, but it's the first mainstream one and the first sci-fi one for sure. But so as far as I know, this is not an inspiration for the autocannon. This is one of those where you'd show me something. And I'd go, what have we got that's like that? Oh yeah, and I grabbed this. This is the Shepherd Robinson SR9, which is a bizarre sort of Cold War vintage attempt at something you can shoot down aircraft with. A little bit like the Barrett M82A2, which we don't have, over the shoulder for better aiming up at aircraft. 50 caliber, doesn't have the toggle lock, most importantly. But that's just, it's so cool that the autocannon does. And it's not like, in the real world, the Luger, the Führer, the Pedersen toggle lock systems, even the Winchester and Maxim toggle inside, those didn't keep going somewhere. We don't have modern weapons that do that. But the idea that someone might throw back to that type of technology is just a cool thing to think about and to see. Loads of visual interest of it clattering away, and the shells coming, cartridge cases or shells on the big Sentry version, come spinning out, look really cool as well. So it was kind of an excuse to talk about an obscure Australian experimental weapon that we had. But I feel like it has the spirit of the autocannon from that. I don't know. I'd like to see someone replicate it. I don't know if anyone's tried to do like a cosplay version or something, but it'd be good fun.
There are some good Helldivers cosplayers. Nothing with a weapon this big, I think.
Logistically tricky, I think, to pull it off. But the whole idea that you can struggle away on your own, and then someone runs in with a backpack of ammo and makes you more effective, maybe even saves your life briefly before you inevitably get mashed. It's just a really cool gameplay element.
Yeah. We're not even going into things like, the heavy machine guns and just the fact that your character screams when holding on the trigger for so long. Like,
there are so many weapons in that you just end up using because they're cool. You're not necessarily caring about meta or what's going to get me kills slightly less, because you die so much anyway. There are so many weapons you can just choose to play with because they're cool.
Yeah. And it's a damn cool game, so hats off to the weapons team that worked on that.
Yep.
Blooming good job.
So you might expect me to have chosen my top as some super detailed historical game. No, we're going Helldivers 2.
I'm so glad you did as well. So glad you did. So we'll do an honourable mention as well as a cursed entry for the year. My honourable mention actually comes from COD Mobile.
Oh, Lord.
So this might be, I think this is really cool.
Okay.
It's very over the top, but I've pulled up a little preview for you here.
Over the top on Call of Duty, you surprise me.
It's an MG42.
What
with a full D-Day landing scene happening on top of it. So this is one of their mythic cosmetics. So all this is happening on top of the gun itself. Tiny, tiny soldiers helping each other up and storming up a tiny, tiny beach.
Words fail me. It's definitely creative, that's for sure.
That's like it's got a little tank on it and everything. It's obviously so over the top, but I sort of love it because it's got. I mean, I love dioramas. I love making dioramas.
It is. It's a diorama on an MG42,
which I've not seen before.
Okay, new challenge. Someone needs to recreate this on their airsoft MG42.
I like that you specifically say airsoft.
Well,
you don't want anyone to do that to a real MG42. Well, the side-mounted magazine having a tank on top of it, what looks like a Sherman maybe.
Yeah.
Detaching that, I saw this and I was like, wow, that's something.
I guess it's arguably a legitimate use of crazy, over-the-top, legendary type, skin type stuff. Where you're telling a story with it, and there's a bit of history wrapped up in it. It's very meta, isn't it? Like the
yeah,
idea that
bizarre that they're sort of doing a D-Day landing on top of an MG42. That's what would be being shot at.
Yep.
The people landing on D-Day, but it's very unique. And the fact that this is just in COD Mobile is like, wow, like where else were you going to put it, really?
I don't know. I strongly suspect they could have put it in one of the main games.
Well,
the online.
Let's go to my cursed entry then.
That's not your cursed entry.
No, that I think is really cool.
No, to be fair, I think the cool factor just about obliterates the cursedness of it.
This is...
Try not to show me here.
This is my cursed entry from Black Ops 6.
What?
So...
Oh.
They've turned the whole gun into a bong, seemingly.
Yep.
And I know Call of Duty's always had like a weird sort of connection to like weed culture, like the cosmetics and was it the labels that you can unlock in Modern Warfare 2?
Oh, vaguely aware of
had
that.
Like you know, marijuana leaves on it. But they've gone so far now that you can smoke out of your... I don't even know. I don't know if
I don't know
base
what's
of
under all that either.
is an AR-15, maybe?
There's too much frenetic movement. No, I don't know what that is.
But
I think it's so covered in... It's so festooned with nonsense.
One of your favourite sayings. That to me, that stood out to me as like, oh, that's...
I mean,
cursed.
I can't disagree that is indeed cursed on multiple levels. I'm kind of hypnotized by it, and it's on a loop, so I need to stop looking at it. Can we stop looking at it?
Yes, we can. But we had COD as an honourable mention, COD Mobile, Black Ops 6 as my cursed entry. So, you know, both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I suppose PSR might enjoy that one with his glong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes the glong look classy, put it that way. So I think honourable mention I struggled with because I wanted to ideally represent the different types of games with guns in that we've looked at. So I thought about the sort of Balkan style flintlock from Bloodborne. I thought that was a really nice bit of... You know, we often see that with armour. Like they'll reference real armour in a crazy fantasy world. Don't see that so much with guns, but you know, they did that. This year we had the 1928 Thompson, A1 Thompson from Battlefield 5, which I was very glowing about. And actually looking at it again, I think it was a bit unfair saying that the sound effects weren't quite there, because I think watching a bit of gameplay back, I did play Battlefield 5, but I don't really remember using the Thompson. I think I was a bit unfair there. They had a cool reload with the drum coming out, but I have to keep coming back to Space Marine 2.
Hell yeah.
Because it's just, you know, I'm not even I don't play the miniatures. I'm like on the fringes because of you mainly.
What an accusation because of you.
I don't know. I'm eagerly awaiting the Cavill series, for example. The animated stuff I'm enjoying. You've got me a book, which is really good. And I've always loved the aesthetic. You know, the satirical bits of it. It's a really cool universe, and to see, and just being happy for all the fans as well, with especially you, with Space Marine 2. And you were gushing earlier about it, and I completely agree. You know, and I wouldn't. So I was trying to pick single weapons. I wouldn't pick a single weapon from Space Marine 2. And in fact, if you had any criticism, I guess it would be, and I've seen people say this, that all the bolters are too similar. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
They are the default weapon of the universe. They should be quite similar to each other. And if you want to work out what nuanced versions work well for you, you can, or you can just pick up literally any one that gives you ammo to fight with, and which I found myself doing quite a bit. You know, I like the version with the grenade launcher, I think, because it felt like a sort of Warhammer pulse rifle a bit. Used that quite a bit. But just they nailed it. Like, as you said, the sound, the look, loads of detail, but without being excessive detail. They didn't try to make them too realistic, but they felt realistic to the universe.
100%.
So,
I agree.
So I have to go with that one.
Good choice. Not biased. Good choice.
And for cursed choice, I'm I have to go with was it the cutie killer from Borderlands? Was it Borderlands 2?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I showed you some horrendous stuff from Borderlands.
The neon pink horror that screams while you shoot it.
There were 2 guns that screamed while you shot.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even the only one. I know. But I think it's
weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, it screams kill, 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 among other things, I think.
Oh, good grief.
So the kind of what the hell is going on memorableness of it. But also the fact that they had, and I immediately kind of started talking, I reverted to comment on the real world parallels to cope, I think. But there are some, it's weird. So it has the V-shaped magazine feed, which is, if it hasn't been taken from the Burton machine rifle that the Cody Firearms Museum have, unique, then it's a weird coincidence, because they're in even a similar angle, but they're the other way up. The rest of the gun looks nothing like it, but it really felt like someone's seen, oh, that's a cool idea, double mags that come in at an angle, but we'll do it this way around, because we want to do our own aesthetic with it. Could be coincidence. But it feels like they're little nuggets of history that they have incorporated into this completely nuts gun that, to be fair, I can't even criticize because it's Borderlands.
Yeah, and it has some cursed guns in Borderlands.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to know that Borderlands 4 got showed off briefly at the Game Awards.
Did it? Okay.
Look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be playing day 1.
I could have picked a cursed gun that just horrified me.
There were plenty of those as well.
I just felt like I kind of, on a certain level, I kind of appreciated that one. So that's what I've gone with.
Good choice.
Right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Those were our top 5 picks of the year.
Yeah.
We've taken slightly different approaches, but I think that's played to our strengths.
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Now, I know you lovely people have been thinking and asking about what's next for you and maybe us working together again. I think we can say, well, I mean, we are working together again, so there's going to be more of this. And top men.
Who? Top men
are working on
yes
whether and how we might be able to do something together that's a bit like the old school stuff that you liked so much.
We hear you all. We see all the comments, and they are all appreciated. And we hear you. That's about all we can say at this stage, but stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled. You'll be the first to know as soon as we know, I think.
Yeah.
But until then, if you want more of my stuff, search Irregular Dave. I'm everywhere. If you want more from Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from... I ruined it. For the first time in years, I ruined it. From throughout history. I fumbled it. The thing that I've been doing for years, I fumbled it. You're already on the right channel, so, subscribe below and keep supporting the Royal Armouries that we all love so much.
Yep, you know where to find us because you're already here. But you can check out, of course, our website. You'll keep an eye out for any events that are going on in the new year. Visit our 3 museums. There's a donate link in the description, as always, as well. And yeah, just keep an eye out for what we might be getting up to.